Yeah. So, okay. Up next, we are excited. And look, we're rolling today, everybody. So, next up, we've got Bryan Woolgar-O'Neil from Harmonic Security, basically talking about how we're going to secure AI running all over the place. So, Bryan, thanks so much for being here with us today.
Hi Dave, yeah, nice to meet you. Yeah, nice to be with everyone. I'm the CTO and co-founder at Harmonics. Yeah, looking forward to this. I've got one slide which I'm not sure is allowed for a demo, but I'm going to sneak that in first and then do a proper
We'll take
demo.
it. Hey, we'll take it.
Cool. Yeah, so I'll crack on. Yes, feel free to ask questions. I will leave time for the end as well, so we can get through those too. Just a quick slide on what we do at Harmonic before we kind of jump in. Hopefully, you can see my screen now. Yeah, as I said before, we are an AI governance and control platform. Ultimately, we're trying to look at how we can kind of give enough governance and control to allow organizations to securely adopt and take AI on board. So we almost see AI as kind of something that organizations are definitely going to adopt and want to adopt, and we want to be an enabler for that. So kind of that's kind of ultimately what our kind of mission of the company is. That's kind of split into kind of three kind of high level areas that kind of explained here. So we want to kind of show you kind of everything. So like what shadow AI is there, what's kind of your inventory of kind of AI usage across your organization, which includes a whole number of different surfaces that we've got on here, whether that's the browser or device or whether that's systems that are talking to each other. One of the kind of key things that kind of Harmonic provides is we've built our own language models. So they're kind of small language models because we want to run them fast and in line. And I'll kind of show you that in operation shortly. And really, they're kind of giving you that contextual awareness of what data is going into those different systems. And we use that in two ways. One way is to kind of give you controls over like where your sensitive data is moving and being able to kind of step in line and kind of coach the end users where you don't want data to leave the business in certain areas. And the other reason we and why we have those language models is we're also using that to kind of understand how people are using AI so that we can help provide contextual information around the adoption of AI. So potentially not quite what you'd imagine in a security product, but all our kind of customer base is looking at those dual challenges of kind of we want to understand and control the risk, but we also kind of want to be a business enabler, so where we can kind of push AI further within the organization. And yeah, then the last thing is given that kind of like guardrails or reporting around that. So that's my one slide done. Apologies for putting a slide on a demo day. It feels slightly wrong. But anyway, I've done it, so I will kind of come out of there. I'm going to start with the end user experience first to kind of show you kind of what this looks like from and ultimately we've focused on it, employees and employee usage of AI. So I'm in Grok just now. Actually, I'll jump to ChatGPT and do this one first. So I'm kind of logged into ChatGPT. We cover over 1,000 sites, and what you're going to see today, I'm on the browser in this instance. I'm going to copy in a demo prompt. I generally use this prompt because it is unstructured content. It's something that not necessarily we've seen this exact content in the wild, but we've seen lots of examples of this type of thing. And in general, this is unstructured content that's around an M&A activity that's kind of happening within our organization. So if I kind of go and send that into ChatGPT, what's happened there is we've got a browser extension that's kind of installed on my browser via an MDM installation. That's kind of captured that prompt before it's gone into ChatGPT or the 1,000 other sites that we kind of cover. It does the exact same thing. So they don't have our data yet. We've sent that back to our back-end systems and kind of where our kind of models run. So that runs in AWS. We execute our different language models, and there's currently 26 models. We're adding new ones all the time that are looking for different types and patterns of sensitive data. The unique thing about those models is they run very quick, so you can see that generally our kind of response time is sub 50 milliseconds to kind of get an answer back because we want to kind of engage the end user. We want to kind of use this as an opportunity to get them the kind of coaching and the experience that they need. So the models run. We detected in this case there's M&A data, and we return back this kind of intervention we call it. So within this, generally kind of our customers will kind of customize this. So you can customize your logo, your color scheme, all the text within here. You can kind of get specific to the different organizations' language or how they talk about things. You can add links in, etc. If you want to talk through if you've got a privacy policy, for example, or a lot of people have like a single enterprise tool they're trying to push everyone to. So you might be into the Claude ecosystem. So instead of using ChatGPT, you want to push people to Claude Enterprise if you've got that kind of setup. We also cover all the different languages. So if you're kind of a global organization and you're kind of spread across the world, you want to make sure that your users have got a good experience. One of the interesting things that our models do as well is being able to detect the data. They're able to explain what within each prompt is actually risky. So in this case, if I drill into the details here, you can see there's information around kind of the companies involved, the kind of the deal timeline and what information it's gleaned from the prompt that's been put in. There's also information about why you wouldn't want to put M&A data into an AI tool, for example. And really kind of our kind of ethos is that we want to kind of be as an enabler of AI, we want to kind of treat the employees almost as I kind of see it's like part of the security team. So we kind of want to kind of coach them and give them that information in real time, rather than kind of this happens and after the fact we're trying to assign them some training after the fact that they have to going to go through and they're like, why am I getting this training? And it's because they've been sending lots of sensitive data out of the business. If I go back, so the other thing is you can determine where this is kind of applied. So in this case, I'm in actually the free version of ChatGPT, so you can determine is it applied to different kind of tiers of those applications. You can determine who it's applied to, so whether it's kind of sets of employees. We hook into your IDP system, so you can look at things that if you've got Entra or Okta or whatever set up, you can kind of use that kind of to target these interventions at certain groups of information. And then you can also look at the how you've authenticated in. So have I used my corporate account or my kind of personal account? In this example, I'm going to ignore the warning. In this case, I'll just give a basic example. Again, this is all configurable, so you can determine if this appears or not. So now what we've got is the ChatGPT has now been sent the data, and it's going to start answering the question that the user is going to pose to it. I'll show you one more before I jump into kind of our portal. I just want to show you the same thing working for files. I'll not spend as long talking about this one, don't worry. I'm going to upload a file. Essentially, it works in a similar way where you can, again, we're trying to inform the end user that we're checking for sensitive information within that file. And if the models will kind of understand, oh, in that case, it's not worked. Apologies, that was working 2 minutes ago. Yeah, we kind of do a similar process for files as well. I'll jump into our portal and show you the back end of that. So this is kind of where the security team would generally live. I think one of the interesting aspects of the platform as well is that we don't just have security teams who are kind of looking at this data. We have kind of governance teams, privacy teams. We also have your kind of AI kind of committees. So the people who are looking at like adoption of AI and growing AI, who are also using our products. We have quite a broad range of end users who are kind of using the platform. I'll come back to this later, but this is just kind of the home screen here. If I follow that kind of alert path through and I go down, you can see if I find the one that I sent in. So this was it. So you can see on here we have the prompt that we can erase. So kind of what I put into ChatGPT in this case. You can see there's a summary that we have on all the alerts. So the main reason we're having the two things is that you can have different RBAC rules. So certain users can't see the prompt, certain users can see it depending on kind of your views of who's using the data and who's looking at it. So there shouldn't be any sensitive information shared in this alert summary. It's only a summarization of the content, not the content itself. You can also see in here information about myself and kind of the application I've used. So you can see we've identified it's the free version of ChatGPT that we're using here. You can see my corporate account, so Bryan at harmonic.security, but you can see I've logged in with my Gmail account. So we can kind of pick that up and then look at that across the platform itself. If I kind of drill into ChatGPT free, part of the reason why we track the plans is they have different risk profiles. So in this case, in ChatGPT free, we have the fact that by default it trains on your data. So a lot of our organizations we work with, even though they've got enterprise accounts, they have a large swathe of their organization that still use ChatGPT free and kind of tools, similar tools to kind of for business processes, and they're putting sensitive content within there that is then used to train the overall ChatGPT models that are kind of coming out, and they don't want those organizations to have their kind of unique kind of corporate data. So that's kind of the alert flowing into ChatGPT. I'll show you a couple of other things within that area. So just as a bit of guidance, there are kind of orientation. All of our kind of screens follow a similar pattern where you've got different ways to customize the views in terms of like summarization, graphical elements, etc. So in this case, if you wanted to track things like how well your policies and controls are in place, so like the green bars are things that your employees have resolved. So you've kind of you've stepped in line, you've told them what's going on, and they've kind of taken a positive action. They have cancelled the request, they've edited their content so that the data hasn't been exposed. They have what I just did, which was a sensitive exposure. So I got warned, but I kind of decided to send the data anyway. So that's kind of the kind of ready color on the graph. And then you've got the yellow cases where you're in monitor mode. So a lot of our organizations will monitor first before then applying controls to certain areas. So that's kind of another kind of state we have. There's other different ways we can cut the data. If I can show you here, there's different ways we can show the different information we have. We have kind of our overall kind of pipelines, like how many prompts are actually coming in across all the different sources we cover, how many alerts have we raised within them, and then how many have been exposed. You can also get a drive down on like what are the employees doing, how many are cancelling, how many are ignoring, etc. And you can see other things like what applications were the alerts raised on. So I did ChatGPT free, which is this one, but you can see there's other things going into Claude Code, which is on the desktop. You got things like Claude Cowork, which you has kind of taken off recently. So giving you that broad view of kind of sensitive data across those areas. You can see on the save views I've got, we cover a whole bunch of things like high-risk geos, personal authentication. You can drill into just the file uploads, etc. Last bit on sensitive data before I move on to the next section, I was just going to show you our detection catalog. And I think one of the unique things we've built, I said earlier on, was those small language models. And kind of what they do is we kind of cover your general, as I say, your PII, like general classics that you get with DLP solutions, like kind of PII, credit cards, PHI, access keys. But we're also looking at a lot of other types of data that is kind of born from our kind of customer base, and then being worried about these types of data going into AI tools. I think there's more likelihood of these types of data with the kind of capabilities that you get from AI. So we have I showed you the M&A kind of example earlier. If I click on that, each of our models has a data definition around kind of what we're looking at, but you can see it's in kind of plain English. It's not in kind of rules or regex format. And that's because the models kind of understand the context of the data and kind of detect things with a lot more accuracy and a lot less false positives. But you can see we're covering, I'll not go through each one, don't worry. We're covering a wide variety of different types. I'll just slowly go down through the different ones where we've got some specific ones around particular industries, which we've kind of worked with in terms of like legal, insurance, financial services, etc., where we've added particular detections that they've asked for. All our models are trained on public or synthetic data, so we don't kind of use your customers' data to kind of to do that training. And we also kind of have a way for you to add your own kind of custom detection keywords. So if you have things like strategic customer accounts, you can add them in, and there's different kind of rules and logic you can add around those. So that's kind of the sensitive data piece that we kind of cover, and kind of the what we provide to kind of the end users as part of that. The second thing I wanted to walk through quickly is kind of the shadow AI or application index. I'll show you this quickly because on time we want to make sure we get to the last thing on the list. So we kind of track, I guess I said, across the browser. We look at kind of hotel feeds. We bring in compliance APIs. We have an endpoint agent that's tracking usage. And across all those, we can combine those into kind of this kind of listing. In this case, I'm just focused on chat applications. Again, you can see, is their usage increasing over time across your employee base? What's the risk level of those? You might want to drill in and go, like, why have I got 7 critical chat apps? And you can go in and see that most of them are kind of, in this instance, they're kind of like Chinese AI tools or LLMs that are kind of being used either via the web apps or kind of via AI APIs that are kind of being invoked across your estate. You can see the different tools and kind of who's using those main tools. You can set the approval status, so you can kind of determine what are your approved tools or your unapproved tools across the kind of applications. I'll drill into native apps, so we kind of have quite a wide coverage of kind of native app coverage. So whether that's CLI tools, IDEs, we cover local LLMs. So if someone's using something like Olama on your machine, we can kind of detect that, and IDE plugins. So here's a list of different apps that we've been kind of tracking and covering in our demo environment. If I drill into something like Cloud Code, for example, you can see that its risk level's low because it doesn't train on your data automatically. We also pull out what we're connecting to within something like Cloud Code. So it could be an approved tool, but it might be connecting to systems or data that you don't want it to connect to. So again, we're kind of highlighting the inference API providers within that set, but it's also showing you all the connectivity. You can also see what employees are using it directly. You can link to things like the departments. Again, that's from the IDP integration itself. So you can see who are the main people who are, in this case, who are using the Cloud Code. Or the last one I wanted to show briefly was if you looked at the inference API providers. So if you're using lots of different tools, you can hook them up to different inference providers. You might even want to just look for someone who'd written a Python script or something that's kind of trying to invoke the DeepSeek API, for example, if I can drill into that one. So again, you can see that our organizations that we work with generally don't want to work with the AI systems that are kind of hosted in China. You can see this case that there's kind of PowerShell or curl commands that are being used to execute them. You can go in and drill and see who those different employees are who are kind of doing that type of thing. And we feel like this is giving you a broad overview of like where your employees are using AI, so you can understand what tools should we be allowing to use, so what tools are they using that we don't want them to use, and we can put in different controls in place to within the platform to kind of push them to those the approved tools and set. So that's kind of sensitive data and shadow AI. And shadow AI gives you who's using what within your organization and how they're authenticating and how what versions of those systems. Something we've released in the last couple of months is trying to answer something a bit deeper. And again, we've kind of used that language model approach to do this. And this is trying to understand what are my employees using AI for within my business. So instead of just who's using AI, what are they actually doing with it? And there's kind of two parts to this. I'll kind of explain it. So the first part is trying to understand how much are they using it for business activities. So what we do is we take all the prompts that come in, we aggregate them into what we call a task. So a task could be 10 prompts that are generating a PowerPoint deck, or it could be 3 points to create an email they want to send out, or 50 prompts to generate your kind of your business department strategy, and they're all aggregated into one task that we look through, and we can determine that task. We then kind of determine if they're business or personal. So are they kind of business focused tasks, or are they not? Is someone just asking about the weather, or is someone actually trying to do some business work? And what you can see here is kind of the business tasks. So we're not showing any of the personal tasks here. So you can see in the last 30 days, there was 2,000 tasks done with it using AI within Harmonic. And we're kind of trying to show that the time spent on AI business tasks across that time window. And then there's different things you can do with that. So one is like looking at your applications. So like what applications are people actually using for business tasks? You can see here we're quite heavily kind of Claude and kind of ChatGPT shop. So there's kind of a lot of kind of co-working code usage. There's a lot of ChatGPT Enterprise. When you've got your kind of tools marked as kind of approved or not approved, you can kind of see the kind of the usage over time of that. So you can understand that if you're trying to make efforts to push people onto the approved apps, is it actually working out? Are they using your approved apps for business work? You can also look at who your employees are. So a lot of people talk about finding AI champions to help with their kind of adoption efforts. So if you're putting in place AI adoption programs, it's useful to go and find the people who are using AI the most within your business. Or I'll show you something else in a second, which is also useful for that. And again, you can filter this down. So this is across all our kind of employees, but you can look at things like marketing or other different department level views to understand your kind of your champions, your AI champions within your business, and then understand how they use AI. We can also look at the thing we do next, which is to take those tasks and aggregate them into a use case. So a use case is a kind of similar semantically task. So if you had some, I'll show you an example in a minute, it's probably easier, but what this is kind of shown here at the top is that the use cases by department. So you see someone like sales, they're doing a lot of different use cases across their department, whereas someone in engineering might be the same size and using AI the same amount, but they're kind of doing more similar tasks that are kind of coming out. So you can see the kind of breadth of activity. We can then look at things like the underlying use cases themselves. So we've got a few different lenses on that. So the first lens is looking at the fastest growing use cases. If I kind of click into one, you can see there's some information around what that task is. Our models are deriving this directly from the prompt content that we've kind of collected through all the different mechanisms that we have at Harmonic. So this isn't based on a customer model or kind of a generic high level model. This is kind of derived directly from your data. So we have kind of these use cases. They're fairly detailed because I think from talking to our customers, they want to really understand at this level what's going on within an organization rather than at a high level where people are saying we're summarizing text. It's like that is not very useful when you're trying to work out and kind of understand where you want to focus your dollars or your effort to kind of drive adoption more within your business. So here you can see these are individual tasks, and you can see there's a few different people that are within this use case. You can see the different tools that are used. So there's a mixture of Claude on the web, ChatGPT on the web, and kind of Claude Code and different. So Kaylee might be doing more of the tasks, but there's also kind of other users who are doing that. If there's any sensitive data, in this case, there's a couple that have kind of appeared, and then what does that look like over time? Is it something that is trending up? Is it something that is, in this case, it's happened a while ago and it's kind of dead and it's kind of going to go out of fashion? So you've got the fastest growing use cases, you've got the highest alert use cases. Again, you can look into them, and this is more around the risks. So like, what are people using AI for that is raising lots of alerts? So we might want to look into that. We also kind of have a way of kind of delving deeper overall. So we kind of got ways to view the use cases by functional areas. So these aren't departments, but more functions. So again, you can kind of look down and understand like, what are my main functions as a business that we're spending time on in terms of AI business usage. You can drill it and see the use cases at that level underneath those. You can just look at the use cases as a big list and see like how they're set up by things like the time span, the number of sensitive data alerts within there, the number of tasks that are kind of happening, how many employees are doing it, and you can also export this. So I think one common thing we see is this has been exported and given to the AI committee if our customers don't want them to come into the tool themselves to kind of have access within our kind of platform. Last thing on this is just there's a few other bits that you might want to drill into. So you can come and look at just like if I just want to focus on my AI enterprise apps, so kind of my approved tools, you can come in and understand that and kind of try and get a sense of like how many different use cases are people doing across the business. So something like Claude Code might be being used a lot, but it's been used by quite narrowly because it's been used for coding exercises, or something like Cowork has been used quite broadly across the business in terms of trying to conduct different use cases. You can also look at shadow AI usage. So you want to understand who are the people who are using non-approved tools to kind of do business activity, and you find me in there because I demo a lot. So tell myself off for that. But again, you can kind of understand, and this is a case where you might go like, what are the actual business tasks people are using non-approved tools for? Because it might be that those tools are being used for a reason, because your approved tool isn't quite hitting the mark that it needs to kind of allow that to be best used. So it's useful to go and identify additional tooling needs that you might want to look at across your business and who's using them across the different departments as well, which is all part of that kind of AI adoption journey. I think I've got 5 minutes left, so I'll stop there for questions. If there is any, so I haven't been watching the Zoom to see.
No, it's all good. Yeah. So a couple questions actually have come in. I don't see any in Zoom, but hey, if anybody wants to throw some other ones in there right now, that is good. But had what I thought was a pretty good question for this platform specifically, which was what are people most surprised by when they deploy Harmonic? What I mean, the whole I know it's like there's the whole shadow concept, but
Yeah,
you're working with customers, you're helping them deploy this. What's this sort of theme where they go, what? What's happening?
yeah, I think there's two things. I think one is, I think people generally they're like they either come along and they're like, we've got an enterprise plan, most people are using it, it's all good. Everyone's on ChatGPT Enterprise or Claude Enterprise or Copilot, whatever one it is. And then I think when we deploy, we find even in those tools, people aren't using the other they're using the free versions of those tools, but and there's like I think in most organizations there's probably like 20-30% who aren't using the corporate accounts at all. And they're using everything but that, which is one thing. And then the other thing is like that I think people expect their data to be being put into these tools, but I think they don't fully understand the extent. And I think like uh, I think it's almost like the power of the models come across if you deploy to someone and you deploy to like a few hundred employees. I think like the types of data that we can detect is quite illuminating to kind of so I think that is the moment where people are like, oh, we need to do something about this. We can't just be a bit more blasé about it or worried just about like PII data or kind of that type of thing. It's like, oh, we're actually putting a lot of our crown jewel data into Grok or DeepSeek or those tools, or even like free versions of ChatGPT that's going to train on all your data. I think that's kind of the two things that happen the most.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I'm curious. So this is for me. I mean, so do you feel like sort of the AI governance element that you're sort of approaching and sort of observing and managing is it predominantly a DLP type problem?
Yeah, it's a mixture of both. So I think there's generally like there's DLP aspects to it. There's also just um almost like user training to an extent of like what are they using the right tooling sets and like the understanding of what what using those tools actually means from an organization standpoint. I think the other thing that I think we didn't probably start out with this in mind was like the adoption side as well as like because like I think that the security teams are are doing this for a couple of reasons, but one is that their business is trying to adopt AI as fast as they can, and they're kind of the gatekeepers or the governance layer that the business has. But it's like a lot of it is around like we want to adopt AI more. Like, can you help us showcase where good adoption is happening or good patterns are happening? So it's almost like that's as much as the control aspect when we kind of deploy to organizations. They want to receive that.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, we had a question that basically just said, "Hey, with the growth in agentic, how does Harmonic basically differentiate between a human user doing a thing and an agent taking actions on behalf of a user,
Yeah,
or is there a big difference?"
it depends what tools you're using. So like yeah, we're adding that in a minute, to be honest, in terms of the platform. So there's some as kind of more tools become more agentic. So I mentioned kind of co-work earlier is kind of one where you're starting to get that from your general employee. And generally, we're focused on the workforce and their enablement of AI rather than if you're using like agents in the cloud, like on AWS Agent Core or things like that, where it's more like you've got identities and other systems. But yeah, this space is moving 1,000 miles an hour, and we're keeping up.
Yeah, that's probably the statement of the day.
Yeah.
That's great stuff. Well, Brian, thank you so much for being here. Be sure to go check in on Slack and see if everybody's talking and chatting over there. I'm sure people might have some more questions for you, but this was great. Thanks again.
Thanks, Dave. Thank you.